my name is BSanchez, and this is my manager leader interview project. For my project, I decided to interview my little sister, Sarah E. Sanchez Aguilar. She was a team lead at Skinny Buddha. It was a very small restaurant and served kind of like Asian fusion food, but unfortunately it did close like 2 weeks ago. So for continuity's sake, I am going to just speak in past tense. But anyway, Sarah's past work experience does include being a dietary aide at a retirement center, and she was briefly a cashier at Bojangles. She did say that these jobs did allow her to start working on her customer service skills, observe what made a good worker, and it did also just really help kickstart that knowledge on food preparation and food safety. When I asked her about what led her to get that leadership position, she mentioned that she had originally just been hired to be the cashier for the restaurant, and she just slowly worked her way up. She did use some of her prior work experience to know how to handle certain things, but the big thing that made her stand out was the initiative she took in starting to learn new tasks to help out her coworkers. She would cover shifts, jump in during breaks, and also used her Spanish to help managers communicate with the Spanish-speaking cooks. She says that soon, her managers just took note of her work ethic and slowly began assigning her more and more tasks, and then eventually just gave her the team lead title. As a team lead for Skinny Buddha, which is that logo there, she does say that some of her duties, or most of her duties, did just have a bit of an overlap with her other coworkers and the managers, and she says she felt like she was a bit of like a middleman or like a messenger. Her daily duties depended on things like if she was opening or closing, so, if she was counting a cash drawer or something for opening versus mopping and tidying for closing. And she also would help with like food preparation and taking inventory, so that if anything was needed in the restaurant, she would make a list and pass it along to her managers so that they could make any necessary orders. She would also help with overseeing employees, and even though it wasn't a daily task, she did help with training and cross-training other people who would join the team and so on. Other duties of hers did include housekeeping and cleaning throughout the shift, making sure that things are up to regulations and safety standards, and also just customer service. But she does say that mainly her biggest job was to just jump in and help others and make sure that the flow of the restaurant was going smoothly. Sari says that for her main challenges at Skinny Buddha, a lot of them were just unique to being such a small business. So everyone had been friends outside of work before the restaurant even opened. So the interpersonal conflicts were a little unique and different. She does say that one of the biggest issues was just that people were a little too comfortable because they were already friends and they knew each other, so they weren't working as hard as they should sometimes, and that did lead to certain tension among others. And given that it was such a small place of work, she said that tensions would sometimes feel super high, and other issues just, in general business was due to being understaffed, and this is, sometimes due to worker shortages or things like people being sick and calling out or scheduling conflicts, and a lot of the employees had multiple jobs. Unique to her, it was because she was moving up, having to learn how to juggle new tasks and more complex tasks, especially compared to her duties as just being a cashier. Additionally, one of the biggest issues for management in general, and it kind of went on to her, was trying to figure out how to deal with the rising prices of supplies, because they were really dealing with a lot of fish and proteins, and then they would have to raise the prices of their menu. The combination of rise in prices and the lack of staff would sometimes cause a lot of angry customers who would then, feel like they had been paying a lot of money and were not getting their food out fast enough. I did wonder then how it was that conflicts were handled with such unique staff relationships. Sari says that while the pre-existing relationships did lead to higher tensions, in the end the conflicts were easier to resolve because of them. And she says that while she would try to hear everyone's story out and then get her coworkers to talk it out and so on, she feels like mainly it was just her pushing two friends together to communicate. For a little bit of context, Sarah E. is currently majoring in psychology, so I had to ask, does she even like the job? And she said simply like yes and no. She really loves cooking, so having been able to learn how to cook different things like hibachi and sushi has been really fun for her. She's also a big people person and has really loved the connections and friends she's made. She's also very proud of herself for having been able to get a leadership position so young, so it's been a good opportunity for her to learn new skills and get work experience. However, Sarah E. really hates conflict and finds it very stressful managing people because of it. So she says that while she is able to push two coworkers or friends together to talk things out, it is still very stressful for her to have to deal with it in the first place. And aside from that, she also really hates dealing with angry customers. And while she's improved in terms of customer service, she does say it still feels pretty frustrating and sometimes even a little scary. Sarah E. describes her leadership style as down to earth and says that her goal is to just be understanding and considerate. Overall, she takes a lot of inspiration from her own manager, having observed from him what she likes and what made her feel encouraged to work hard. She says that whenever she was given praise and told she was doing a great job, it would be really motivating for her, so she would just keep that in mind when interacting with others. And then when I asked if she had any advice for others in leadership positions, she says that building trust is essential, as is being understanding of any issues that coworkers or employees might have. She would really try hard to work with people and guide them the best that she could, just to get the job done and contribute to a good work environment. Finishing up the interview, I did ask Sarah E. to reflect and asked her if she thought she was a good leader. She says that she hoped she was because she had tried really hard to find the balance between being understanding but also strict enough that the job would get done. And when asked if she would do it again, she said yes, because she's met such great people and has learned valuable skills that she hopes will benefit her in the long run. Thank you for listening.